All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something, uh, it might seem basic at first, but it's a skill that truly sets apart those senior engineers from, well, everyone else.
Ah,
Documentation. And specifically, we're going to really dig into using Javadoc to do it right.
yeah, it's funny, you get so focused on the code itself, but as you move into these more senior roles, you realize just how crucial clear documentation is. It's not just a chore, it's how you share your knowledge, help your team, and make sure the project stays healthy down the road. And using Javadoc right there in your Java code, that's huge.
Exactly. So today, let's unlock this. We're going to learn how to use Javadoc to make documentation that looks just as professional as, say, the official Java API docs. But more than that, documentation that actually brings value, real value to your team and your projects.
Perfect. Let's start with the why. Like, why Javadoc? I mean, back in the day, we used to have all these separate documents, design docs, wikis. But you know what happens. The code changes, the docs don't. You end up with this mess of outdated info. Nobody wins.
Yeah, it's a classic problem. I've definitely been there. So the big win with Javadoc is that it's right there in the code. No more separate documents to keep track of. Documentation becomes like part of the development flow.
Yeah, exactly. And the cool part is Javadoc takes these comments, these special comments you write, and turns them into like professional looking HTML documentation. Automatically. It's like magic. You get this consistent, easy to navigate structure right out of the box, just like the docs we all use for the core Java libraries.
Streamlines the whole thing. You're not juggling documents anymore. You're documenting as you code, as you go.
And the amazing thing is how much Javadoc can actually grab. We're talking classes, interfaces, constructors, methods, fields, even packages and modules. It gives you this whole picture of your project, like an X-ray.
Wow, so it's really getting into the guts of your Java code. We'll talk about interfaces and protected members later, but even just focusing on the public API that's a massive win for understanding a code base.
For sure. So let's get into the nitty-gritty, the anatomy of a Javadoc comment. You've got your regular comments with double slash or slash star, star slash. The Javadoc, that's different. It starts with slash star star and ends with star slash, that extra star. That's the secret sauce. That tells Javadoc, hey, process this.
Got it. So slash star to begin, star slash to end, and what goes in between?
Two main parts. You start with a plain text description, explain what this thing does, what it's all about. Think of it as the story of your code. Then after the text, you can add tags. These start with an @ symbol, like @author, @param. They give structured info that Javadoc uses to organize everything nicely.
Oh, and I remember something about the very first sentence in that description. It's kind of special, right?
Absolutely. That first sentence, that's your summary.
Yeah.
Javadoc uses it to create these nice overview pages and quick reference lists. So make sure that first sentence really nails what the element is all about.
Makes sense. You want people to quickly get the gist. Now, let's talk about readability. Can we do any fancy formatting inside these comments?
You can. Basic HTML tags are totally allowed. For example, em and m for italics, code and code for fixed width font, like if you're showing code snippets, and strong to make text bold. Keep it simple, though. No need to get too crazy.
Basic HTML, got it. But what about images? Sometimes you really need a visual, like a UML diagram or something.
You can totally add images with the MG tag. But here's the trick. Javadoc has this special folder called doc files. You create it inside your source directory, and that's where you put all your images.
So if I'm working on a class, let's say orderprocessor.java, and I want to include an image called workflow.png, I would make a doc files folder in the same place as orderprocessor.java and put workflow.png in there.
Exactly. And then in your Javadoc comment for order processor, you would link to it like this: mng src doc-files workflow.png alt order processing workflow. When Javadoc generates the HTML, it will automatically copy that whole doc files folder and everything in it to the right place.
Really nice and organized way to handle those extra files. There's also something about certain HTML elements to avoid.
Yeah, it's best to stay away from things like headings, those H1, H2 tags, and horizontal roles, the HR tag. They can mess up the formatting that Javadoc uses, and you end up with this weird-looking documentation. Stick to the basic inline formatting, and you'll be golden.
Great advice. Keep it simple in the comments. Now let's look at the different types of Javadoc comments we use. We started with class comments. Where do those go exactly, and what's the important info to include?
Class comments go right before the class declaration. They're like the big picture description. what this class is for, what it does, how it fits in with the rest of the system. This is also where you'll usually see the @author tag to credit the developers who wrote it. And you can use multiple @author tags if there were several people involved. Another common tag is @version to specify the, well, version of the class.
We saw an example with an invoice class where the comment block was right before public class invoice, and it had @author Alice developer and @version 1.2. That makes the placement and those tags crystal clear.
Exactly. And you might notice these optional asterisks at the beginning of each line inside the comment block. Most IDEs will add these automatically, and while Javadoc doesn't strictly require them, they do make the comments look a lot nicer in the code.
Right, it's like a visual cue that this is a special comment block.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to documenting methods, because let's be honest, that's what people are looking at most of the time. How do we do that effectively with Javadoc?
Method comments go right before the method declaration, and there are a few key tags you really want to use here. First, for each parameter the method takes, you include @param variable name description. This explains what each parameter represents, what values are expected, what it's all about. If your method returns something, anything other than void, you need an @return description tag. Explain what the method gives back under different conditions. And finally, if the method can throw exceptions, you document those with @throws exception class description tags, listing the type of exception and when it might happen.
Yeah, we had that example with the calculate total method.
Yeah.
It had @param items, a list of order items. It returned the total cost of the order, and it throws illegal argument exception if the list of items is null or empty. That kind of detail is so helpful for anyone who wants to use the method correctly.
Absolutely. It not only tells you what the method does, but also what to give it, what to expect back, and what potential problems to watch out for. It's like a mini manual for each method. Now, what about documenting variables? Do we always need to do that?
From what I've seen, the main focus is on public variables, especially those static constants. Those are often crucial for how other parts of the system interact with your code.
You got it. For those public fields, especially constants, a Javadoc comment right before the declaration explaining their purpose and value, that can be super helpful. Imagine a constant like max users. Documenting what that limit means is important for anyone using it. For private or internal variables, ideally, the code itself should be clear enough, and too much Javadoc there might just add clutter instead of clarity.
So pick your battles. Focus on the variables that are visible to the outside world. There are also those general purpose tags, @since and @deprecated.
Right. @since version goes in any Javadoc comment class method field to say when that element was introduced. This is great for keeping track of the history of the code, especially when you have people using different versions.
Makes sense. It's like a timeline for your code base. And @deprecated, that's a big red flag that something is, well, not recommended anymore.
Exactly. @deprecated marks elements that you shouldn't be using anymore. And when you use this tag, it's really important to also say what the recommended replacement is, if there is one. Like @deprecated, use new method instead, something like that.
It's like putting up a detour sign. This way is closed, take this new route.
Yeah.
In that example, using curly braces, @link new method provides a direct link to the alternative.
Exactly. And don't forget, Java also has the @deprecated annotation. While the Javadoc tag is for us humans reading the documentation, the annotation is for the compiler. It triggers warnings when someone tries to use deprecated code. Best practice is to use both because the annotation itself can't say what the replacement is.
Got it. So the Javadoc tag tells the developer reading the docs, and the annotation helps the compiler catch potential issues during development. Makes perfect sense. Now let's talk about connecting the dots in the documentation. How do we link to other parts of the documentation or even external resources?
Javadoc has two main ways to do that: @C and curly braces @link. The @C reference tag adds a link in a special C also section. You can use it for classes, methods, fields, pretty much anything. The reference part has different forms depending on what you're linking to.
Tell me more of these different reference formats.
The most common one is package, class #feature label. You give the full name of the class, a hash symbol, then the name of the method or field, and you can add an optional label to show as the link text instead of the whole reference. The cool thing is, if the target is in the same package or class, you can often leave out parts of the name, and Javadoc is smart enough to figure it out.
We had that example with at ccom.example.util string utils. hashtag capitalized string.
Yeah.
So even if I'm documenting a class somewhere else entirely, I can link directly to that capitalized method and string util.
Yep. Notice that hash symbol between the class and the method name. That's super important. That's how Javadoc knows what you're referring to. You can also use @c to link to external websites using the normal HTML href syntax. So you can point to, I don't know, official specs, related docs, even blog posts. Super useful for giving more context.
That's incredibly helpful. You can really guide the reader to all sorts of extra information. And the third form was just plain text in quotes.
Right. If you put text in quotes after @c, it'll just show up as plain text in the See Also section, not a clickable link, just a mention, like @c design patterns for beginners, something like that. You can use multiple @c tags in a single comment, and it's a good habit to group them together at the end.
Got it. And now what about that curly braces @link tag you mentioned? How is that different from @c?
The curly braces @linkpackage.class #feature label tag lets you put hyperlinks right in the middle of your description text, not just in a separate See Also section. And the format for the reference part is exactly the same as with @c. This is super useful for mentioning other classes or methods right in your explanation so the documentation flows better.
So if I'm describing a method and I want to mention another class that's closely related, I can use that link right there in the paragraph, and the reader can jump straight to that class's documentation. Much more integrated.
Exactly. It makes navigating the docs so much smoother. Now, we've talked a lot about classes and their members, but what about documenting bigger things like packages and modules, or even the whole project?
Yeah, there was something about a special file called packageinfo.java for package-level comments.
Right. To document a whole package, you create this file called packageinfo.java in the package directory. It only has one thing, a Javadoc comment, the /** kind, followed immediately by the package statement. No other code, no other comments. That Javadoc comment is the description for the whole package.
Okay, so it's a dedicated file just for the package-level documentation.
Yeah.
Keeps things neat and tidy. What about modules? Those are newer, right?
For modules, you put your Javadoc comments inside the module-info.java file. This file also supports the @modulegraph directive, which can generate a visual diagram of the module's dependencies right in the documentation. Modules are a bit more advanced. We won't go too deep into those today.
Got it. And for the big picture project description?
For that, you create a file called overview.html and put it in the root directory of your source code, the folder that contains all your package folders. Javadoc will automatically find it. Whatever you put between the body tags in this HTML file will be shown on the overview page of the generated documentation. It's a great place to give a general introduction to your project, talk about the architecture, key design principles, anything that applies to the whole thing.
So it's like the welcome mat for your documentation set. Gives you the lay of the land. Awesome. Now, we've spent all this time adding these fancy Javadoc comments. How do we actually create the final HTML documentation? That's where the Javadoc utility comes in, right?
Exactly. Open up your terminal or command prompt, navigate to the directory where your source code lives. If you have packages and subfolders like com example project, you'd go to the folder that contains com. This is also where you'd put overview.html if you have one.
Okay, so top level of the source tree.
Yeah.
What's the basic command to run?
The core command is javadoc doc directory package1 package2 and so on. Replace doc directory with the name of the folder where you want Javadoc to put the generated HTML files. And the package1 package2 part, that's where you list the packages you want to document. If you want to do all the packages in the current directory and its subdirectories, you can usually use a dot or the name of your top level package.
And that doc to directory part is really important, right? I read that if you leave it out, you end up with a mess in your source directory.
Oh, for sure. If you don't specify an output directory, Javadoc just dumps all the HTML files right there with your code. Super messy. Using Javad keeps everything clean and organized.
Are there any other useful options for the Javadoc command that we should know about?
Oh, absolutely. There are some really handy ones. For example, if you use the @author and @version tags, they don't get included in the output by default. You have to tell Javadoc to include them with @author and @version options. Another super useful one is @link. This lets you create links from your documentation to external docs, like the official Java API docs.
You gave an example, something like -link https://oracle.com/shapi-srccom.example.project. So this would automatically create links to the official Java 17 docs for any standard Java classes used in my project. That's a huge time saver and makes the docs way more useful.
Exactly. It saves you the trouble of documenting all those standard classes yourself, and your users can go straight to the source, the official up-to-date docs. You can even use 8link multiple times to link to docs for different external libraries you're using. And finally, there's uslink source. If you use this, Javadoc will create HTML versions of your source files and add links in your documentation that go straight to the code. Super helpful for developers who need to understand the details of how things work.
Wow, that's a lot of power at your fingertips. You can really fine-tune how the documentation is generated and how it connects to everything else.
For sure. Mastering Javadoc with all its tags and command line options is a big step towards being a more professional and effective software engineer. Especially as you move into senior roles, creating clear, maintainable documentation is a hallmark of a good developer. It shows you care about code quality, teamwork, and the long-term success of your projects.
This has been a seriously deep dive into Javadoc. We've covered why it's so important, what you can document, how to write those special comments, format text, add images, use all those tags for classes, methods, variables, and how to create links both within your docs and to external stuff. We even talked about documenting packages, modules, and providing a project overview. And finally, we saw how to use the Javadoc command and all its cool options.
And if you're getting ready for a senior software engineering interview, being able to talk about documentation and show you understand Javadoc, that's huge. It tells them you get it. That code is not just about making things work, it's also about communication and maintainability, and those are key for a senior role.
Absolutely. So listeners, if you're prepping for those next steps in your career, especially those senior level interviews, think about how you can bring this Javadoc knowledge into the conversation. How would you explain its benefits? How would you approach documenting a new feature? Think about those situations. And maybe even play around with the @link and image features to create some truly awesome documentation for your future projects. Thanks for joining us this deep dive.